Okay, let's start, right?
Okay,
Ready?
so again, yes, we will start all over. I'm Marta Lempart, this is Klementyna Suchanow. We are at Polish Women's Strike headquarters, and we asked you, and we are very happy that you joined us, and we are very happy with the international media interest in our protests and in our fight. So thank you for being here with us. Thank you for reporting what's happening in Poland now. So we will answer all your questions, and first we'll give you the basic info we think you might need about what's happening in Poland and what's going to happen next.
Okay, so just to summarize a bit, because we don't know how much you are into this topic. Last week we had a decision made by the Constitutional Tribunal, which legality is questioned by many people, authorities here, about more restrictions in abortion law. So this time what's taken away from our rights is the case of lethal injuries or illnesses of the fetus. So in this case abortions are not legal, are forbidden. And it was met with a rage by women, but because of the pandemic time we didn't really know what to do and how to react, but people nevertheless spontaneously took to the streets, and this is how it started a week ago. Since then we are present on the streets every day, almost everywhere in Poland. It's unprecedented, the situation that we are having right now, because you can go actually to any village or town in this country and you meet people wearing masks with this sign, with the signs of the women's strike, or you'll see windows with posters or cars. So it's everywhere. Today I heard about a couple who's getting married, and the lady the bride was very happy because she prepared a mask for herself, white with the red sign on it. So this is getting and becoming so popular, so white. The protests are peaceful, the police is quite, okay, there are some situations of dangers, but in general we could say that so far it's peaceful. The problem we have is some nationalist groups attacking people, crowds, or dispersed individuals on the streets, and that's the problem. We are quite sure that those guys are kind of party warriors, and we ask the journalists to investigate on it much more. What else? It's a lot of young people on the streets, which is new and unusual in Poland. In the last years we used to have a lot of protests, and it's the first time we see so many youngsters on the streets. So this is a very new situation, and for me it's a generational revolution, I would even say, because this is not a protest anymore, we feel. So it started with women's issues, but if you hear the people on the streets, what they shout, when you look at the transparents, you see that it's becoming a much wider protest against what the government is proposing as the style of life, the rules they try to impose on us. Also because of the pandemic situation and bad decisions that were made, and because the health system is not prepared to do what they should, and so and so. So this is becoming now not only women's protest, but just people's protest, national protest.
Yes. I would just say more about postulates. So as you know, we started with the issue of the Mrs. Przyłębska, so the person who pretends to be the head of the Constitutional Court of Poland, announcement on abortion. So of course the first postulate is for them to back this down and to admit that this is just an announcement of a person who's not a legally appointed judge or head of the Constitutional Court. But then the postulates that we collected off the streets, that are shouted on the streets, that are written on the banners, go much farther. So they're about the status of the Constitutional Court, as we want it back, we want it legal. It's about the status of the Supreme Court that is at least partially taken over by the government, taken over politically. The issue is human rights. with LGBT-free zones that have to go, because we have this horrible government action against LGBT persons in Poland. And the pandemic reaction, the reaction to the pandemic by the government, who does nothing to help us in this disaster, who is totally incompetent and corrupted. So the postulates are also about the money, about putting money where it should be, in healthcare, in education, to help businesses, to help workers who lost their livelihood, and so on, so on. And there are so many others about helping people with disabilities that our government calls so happily when they speak about abortion. And their last step, actually, that it's openly being said on the streets of Poland, is for the government to step down. And people shout it everywhere, and people write it everywhere. And you can see it everywhere. If you see the 5 and 3 dots, stars, signs on Polish Facebook, it means that the government has to go. And these are the postulates, and we follow our Belarusian friends very closely. That's why we collected, that's why we called for the consultation council, and we will have first meeting on Sunday, and we will discuss the situation and try to find a way to bring us all out of this mess that we are because of the government that is incompetent and hates people. This is what we're talking about now. And yes, we're prepared to fight till the end, and yes, we're prepared to walk the streets as long as we need, as Belarusians do for many weeks now already. Yeah, the question.
Excuse me for taking off the mask, but you will not hear me otherwise.
Yeah.
Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. 2 questions actually. First, what is your attitude, what is your appeal now towards church buildings? Is it okay to draw slogans on church buildings, or is it not okay? That's my first question. The second, which I believe is more important, in '89, the government was taken down, as you remember, by the parliament, by the Sejm, not by the street. So when will you make a contact, or do you have contact already to the main opposition forces in parliament, especially Koalicja Obywatelska, Platforma, your neighbor here, to further? Thank you.
Okay. Regarding the churches, as you know, Poland is famous for being Catholic, and the government is very proud of it, and they love this legend. But in recent years, because of the government's actions, people are becoming more and more angry with the church and with the institution of the church. So there's a lot of people, I'm sorry, but somebody's phone is ringing. Okay. People are becoming more and more angry with the attitude that's presented by the officials of the church. And what happened last Sunday was an action that was happening in many places of people getting into the churches at the Mass to say what they think or to somehow protest in silence. I mean, also depending on the people. And yes, there are also graffitis on the churches right now. It's a very critical moment. And the church is responding as usually, which means with no respect to the people and to what they say. There was never a dialogue actually with the believers about those topics, and so it's very new in Poland, but also it's a historical moment. Something's changing in this population. People are abandoning the church. Kids at schools stop going to the religion classes. Parents are upset with the school teaching on religion also. People stop getting married by church. So we are in a process that I believe is similar to what happened in Spain after Franco. And my hope is, this is my real hope, that Poland will become so progressive as Spain is today.
Sorry,
because
this is your analysis, but what's your opinion? Do you feel that people on Sundays should again go to the churches to protest exactly in the location?
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't hear the beginning.
Sorry. That is your analysis, but what's your opinion? Do you encourage the people who protest to on Sunday again take to the church and voice their opinion there?
Yes, on Sunday, last Sunday,
next
To next Sunday,
Okay. on last Sunday, we encouraged people to express what they really think about the role of the church, but we don't encourage people to attack the churches or to attack anybody. And we feel that we already made a statement that was very clear, and I don't think that we have to repeat it. I think it was strong enough and loud enough, but we don't encourage people to do it again because we prefer to focus on something more positive, on building the council, on taking care of the crowds, on building the solidarity among the people and communities. We could see unbelievable situations on Monday in Warsaw during the blockades, that different communities in the city started collaborating with each other. So we think that this is more important than thinking about the church. Let's leave the church where it is. If they understand the situation, they should change their position. If they don't do it, they are losing. That's true.
But you had another question, yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
the parliament, opposition in parliament and your
Yeah.
contact to the main opposition forces.
As I said, we are creating a consultative council, and it consists of also former people of the former opposition, the anti-communist opposition, of experts, of people who protest on the streets, who organize protests, and any other persons who have Poland at heart. And of course, it would be really populist to say that we don't talk to any politicians, we don't want to talk to any politicians. We will not let them to take over these protests, and no, they are not the major opposition force. We are the major opposition force. People are the major opposition force. They are just parliamentarians, they are just politicians. But of course, as we did all the time, and we admit that, because as I've said, it would be populism to say that we never talk to the politicians, we don't want to work with any of them. We talk to the politicians that we've worked for many years. We talk to the politicians that have been on the streets, who put their also safety on the line for us on the streets. People who do things, people who create things, people who work hard in the parliament. And of course we will find a way, and they will be included somehow in the works and in the talks. But the major place and the major institution, I would say, to talk to the government, if the government wants to talk about their stepping down and the conditions of the government stepping down, will be the consultative council.
Let's start from the left.
Wouter Zwart, Netherlands national broadcaster.
Oh, well.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. This is obviously not the first time that Polish authorities take measures that go against civil rights in common, but also common European values, democratic values. You are a member state of the European Union. Do you expect anything from other member states, like the Netherlands, for instance, or from Brussels?
We expect, not from the states, and not from the institutions, and not from the politicians, we don't expect much, but we expect and we get solidarity from citizens of Europe who understand that we are all citizens of Europe, that we are Europeans. And what can be done is more pressure by the European citizens, by the European media, towards the politicians who drag their heels and don't help us. And I think the best example and the best thing that we actually at some point acknowledge is the things that are happening in Poland, the things that were happening in Poland. For example, people sleeping on the streets of the Supreme Court to protect it, so Mrs. Gersdorf, the legal head of Supreme Court, can go to work and not be arrested and not be detained and not be taken. Is the fight for European values. This is where the fight is. It's here in Poland. We fight for the rule of law, we fight for democracy, we fight for human rights. So this is the major focus for us, for Europeans to know and for Europeans to put the pressure on politicians, on European institutions, to show them that this is our common cause, because Polish people are Europeans and we are Europeans. And what can be done by the European institutions and politicians is just to remember that they don't have to, of course they have officially, but it's really wrong and it's really ignorant and arrogant to just talk to Polish government and not talk to us and not see us as European citizens, because I believe that every European politician, with the community that we have, is also obliged to protect me, to fight fight for my rights here, in spite of this being Poland and some other politicians being as well. And this is what we're missing. We're missing the international politicians, the international political community of saying openly, I stand behind Polish people, yes, against Polish government, because these are European people, these are Europeans, and I stand behind them because we are all Europeans. That's what is missing, and that's what I believe they are scared to say, because they don't want to confront Polish government. But this is the choice. Do you stand for the people, or do you stand for some government? This is just a government. This is just some people. But we are here, and there's more of us, and our rights are in danger, and our lives are in danger. And this is really happening, and yeah, that's for everyone to see. I guess, I don't know what you have to do to not notice what is happening in Poland and many other countries.
Excuse me, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm also from the Netherlands, from the NRC. My name is Emily. The lead prosecutor in Poland has written a letter to his underlings demanding that they take the most rigorous steps to prosecute people who are on the street, people who lead this strike, like yourself. Have you already had claims against you? Have people you know been arrested, detained for a longer time? What is the legal situation?
We're veterans.
You know, we are here fighting for many issues since years, so it's nothing new. And we have plenty of trials that are on. I can't even give you a number. There are just too many.
Against you personally?
Yeah, both of us, many of us. It's about many people. People are losing jobs. There are different forms of repressions. People are losing health. So we are prepared, nothing scared. This is nothing new. This is just one more announcement, one more paper. I mean, I wouldn't pay too much attention today to that. It's just like, I know, it makes us laugh rather than be scared.
And I'm happy to see that it also actually makes young people laugh, because this old style writing with the signs and big words and so on, with the announcements of Kaczynski, that looks like actually like the Jaruzelski, the general who introduced the martial law. This old type of narrative and visualization of this is what they think of the people. This is still this authoritarian mentality that is being laughed at, and I'm so happy to see that the Prime Minister can dress up and say things, that Jarosław Kaczyński can dress up and say things, and nobody cares anymore. And I personally,
but you have not been, you or people close to you have not been arrested and detained for much longer than should be allowed, or
not yet.
It's
something that I think they don't, in their calculations, they are right, because arresting people here in Poland, detaining, sounds very much like old times, and people are very sensitive about the communist, system here. So this is the worst thing they could do. So they don't do it. So they use other forms of repressions, as I said, economic repressions or.
But there are also, of course, illegal detentions.
TV propaganda, for example, hate that's used against us, those forms of.
But of course, there are lots of cases of illegal detentions. The police specializes in closing people in cordons surrounding them, so they cannot leave, but they also are not arrested, and it might take even a couple of hours. And people are detained on some ridiculous grounds. And it's all within the legal form, but it's a form of repression. It's like it was in communist times when Jacek Kuron, again, he was arrested almost every day. So he would just be let go, and then he would be detained again, and so on, so on. So this is quite a strategy for every authoritarian government to pretend that it's legal. There are also, of course, some more dangerous and more serious issues that the lawyers are dealing with. And there are actually cases against Polish state that the Polish state has already lost for illegal detentions, especially these cordons surrounding people and not letting them walk the streets. And they lose, and they have to pay compensation to people. So, and we pay for that, all of us, the taxpayers, with what the government's doing. The thing that is illegal, obviously, is using the state forces, the state police, the state military to protect private homes, to protect Jarosław Kaczyński, who's just an MP. He wasn't in the government for the last 4 years, and so on, and to use them as their own private bodyguards and so on, with the taxpayers' money, which is absolutely illegal. And also what's illegal is blocking the entrance and blocking the grounds of the parliament that was always open to citizens. Not the buildings, obviously, with the security measures and so on, but the grounds of the parliament cannot be legally blocked against the citizens, but they are, and we cannot enter. And we are blacklisted, we cannot enter the parliament, for example, us. So yeah, that's the illegality, of course, happens. It seems soft, it seems irrelevant, but it's happening, obviously.
Yeah. Monsieur again from France. 2 questions, if I may. First, yesterday a letter was published and signed by 27 priests who I think cannot be suspected of sympathy neither for the current government, neither for the episcopate. Would you be ready to invite to your consultative council such like open-minded priests? That's my first question. Yeah. Because a lot of people in Poland support you, but also Catholic. Like, would you be like okay to invite such open-minded priests? And second question, for your demands to be fulfilled, I guess Poland is not only a new government but also a new parliamentary majority. Do you today call for early elections?
Okay, so the Consultative Council is supposed to talk about the state, and the state is the state, and the church is the church. And we will not be asking the church, what state will they let us have? It's done. It will never happen again. We might consult things with many institutions and bodies and persons in Poland, but obviously not with the power of saying how should Polish state look like. They had their chance. Polish church had their chance in saying how they see Polish state, and we are here now with this neo-fascist, crazy anti-woman, anti-human right thing that is happening to us. So the open-minded people, there are always open-minded people, but we will not introduce anyone who's interested in taking over our state and using it against us to impose their religion on us anymore, ever. It's not going to happen. And this, the elections thing, it's
This is very simple. If people are demanding the government to step down, then logically there should be new elections, right? So if the demand is for the government to step down, then there's no other solution, I guess, right? But we don't talk about it right now.
Yeah, it's the matter for the Consultative Council, because as I said, it's for them, it will be their task to prepare a solution, to prepare a proposal of the solution, to present it to people, so we can fight for this together. But we need help, we need experts, we need people who are engaged, we also need observers, we need everyone who's been working with us and who's been maybe not working with us, but was working for our freedoms and for the state that we want to have.
Something more?
No.
Okay, I'm happy it's done. Let's get to the revolution. Thank you.